Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Voices from the Mausoleum. And we're back with more remake episodes with my co host, Scott Harding from the You Run podcast.
Hello. It's been ages. Ages. You were like, we're taking a short break. And that feels like that was about 8 years ago.
It does. And it's crazy because, like, we usually do multiple. We try to get in multiples because we're in very different time zones and we both have a lot of other stuff going on.
Yeah.
And so it always feels like a long time, but this almost feels like starting over.
Yeah. How do we do this? I've forgotten how to do it.
I forget every time we do it. And then we
This is true.
just wing it, I think is the standard.
Yeah, we'll be fine, especially with this movie.
Yep. Yeah, so this was a first watch for me. I just never watched it. As was the case with another one that ended up being a really funny conversation when we did Black Christmas. But so we're talking the remake of the 2011 remake, The Thing.
Yes. Should have been the greatest remake ever made, but the studio could not keep their hands off of it and ruined it. And also ruined the director so much that he'll never work with a US studio again.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't know a lot of that until some of the stuff I knew about, like I knew about the changes in the practical to the CGI. I knew about that, and and then when we were messaging the other day, you had said I didn't know any of that. I think I knew this remake existed, but I felt like a lot of people weren't fans. I think The Thing has its own following. It's very, it's on a lot of people's influential list that I've talked to. It's a perfect movie to me. Like, I love the original.
Yeah, so do I.
Yeah, and then when you get to this, it seems like the people that do seem to talk about really liking it sort of seem ashamed that they feel that way. So, yeah.
I think I would have really liked it had the studio not touched it. So this originally was all practical effects.
Yeah.
The lengths they went to recreate the base. So no blueprints existed for that base. So they used screenshots of the original John Carpenter and they took dimensions and measurements off of that to make it 100% accurate to what it was. The guys who made this were fans of the things. They were huge John Carpenter fans.
Yeah.
And they made it as a fan project originally. And a
Okay.
studio picked it up and a studio went, yeah, we'll give you loads of money. And they were having a wonderful time. And then it got to the editing room and they were like, no. So you know the bit where they come through and you've got the cylinder of light, like these little blocks that are moving around?
Yeah.
That looks terrible.
Yeah.
That originally was going to be a dead thing in the pilot's chair of the ship in its original form of what John Carpenter originally sketched the thing to look like.
And they changed
the studio took it out. I know. Why?
That would have been awesome.
I know. The director tried to fight them, even took them to court to try and fight them. And what they done was, before it reached court, they rushed the release and pushed it out into the world. And then his case fell apart. Still to this day, he's not worked with an American studio again.
I can't say I blame him in that regard. That sounds awful.
Yeah.
That would have been way cooler than what we see.
Yeah. And like all the practical, why would you go to the effort of doing all the practical effects and then paint over it with CGI? I don't understand the logic in doing that.
Me either. And I feel like with it being, I mean, it's not like this was made before the original had a following. I mean, that was one of the things that made The Thing so great, was the incredible practical effects and the way they were able to create all that insanity that they created for that movie. And it's weird to me that they would think that was the better option, given that so many people, that's what they talk about with that film.
Yeah. Yeah, I find it bizarre. As for the actual film itself, there's lots of issues.
Yeah.
There is one good thing though. They've inserted a female. It's not a sausage fest like the first movie.
And I like her. I can't think of her name, but I've seen her in several things. She was in, I think, 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Yes.
And she's been in a couple other horror related things. I really like her as an actress, and I liked her. I thought she was a good choice.
I thought the cast were good.
Yeah, I don't think I had any issues with the cast. Yeah.
No, I think the only one who's a little bit off is he's kind of like the assistant, the one who first goes to
Oh,
see her.
yeah.
I've seen him in something else that he was odd in that as well, and I can't place what he was in, but he's a very kooky guy.
Hmm.
He's the
Yeah.
guy you'd see sort of sat in a bar just staring at you who wouldn't come talk to you. He's that guy.
Yeah. Not quite like creep level, but definitely kind of getting there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he's very, very odd. But yes, story wise, they were kind of really limited
Yeah.
by doing a prequel. They had a point to get to, and they knew everything they needed to do. They know the Norwegians found the ship.
Yep.
They know the Norwegians found the alien. They know it broke out.
Hmm.
They know it killed everyone, and
Yep.
they know it went into the dog. And they had their script written. They needed to try and fill around that, and I
Yep.
think that limited them as to how much they could do because they couldn't recreate the same test that we saw in the original. It
They had to
needed
do
to
different
be,
ones. Yeah.
yeah, and they had to learn it themselves. And I would say they picked up on what was going on a bit too quick for me.
Yeah, because I guess like the equivalent of the blood was the teeth, right? They're like, oh,
Yeah,
if you've got, cavities, it can't reproduce organic material or however
yeah,
they phrase it,
it can't do metal or
metals or anything like that.
yeah.
So when it's like and all I was thinking when I got to that, because again, this is a first watch for me. I'd never seen this before. When we got to that part, I was like, but like not everybody has fillings. Like, so I thought that was kind of whereas, obviously like with the blood test, that was like that would that
Yeah.
make that test make sense, but the cavity fillings one was interesting. But then like when they get to the ones where they're doing it, I thought that was a really, I don't know, it didn't make as much sense to me as the blood test one.
No, and they also went the route of making the girl seem just a bit crazy when
Like
she
they
was the
do.
end.
Yeah.
We've spoken about this in messages quite a bit recently,
Yeah.
and people will find out why
Soon.
later on a new show.
Mhm.
But yeah, that trope of making someone just seem nuts and everyone
For
give
no
the
reason.
for no reason at all, because what's going on around them is crazy,
It is.
and everyone else is like, no, it's okay. We need to calm down. No, you just saw an alien open its stomach and fire tentacles across a room. Now is the time to be completely insane.
Yeah, and it's like, so one of the things that the first one did so well was it used everything that you got, like whether it was, the social interactions, the environment, all of the things around it, the atmosphere, to create paranoia within you as the viewer.
Yeah,
This was like shoving the spoon of it down your throat of be paranoid, be paranoid, be paranoid, instead of just using other things to build up that level of tension and discomfort and distrust. Because
yeah,
that's like something when I've talked about the original The Thing, that's something that I cannot speak highly enough of, is the way that they created this feeling of distrust and paranoia. And this felt like it was just dictating what you should feel as you're watching it instead of actually making you feel that way.
yeah. And it hit too hard with the big special effects too early. So you had big scenes where people are sort of splitting down the middle and opening up, and there's teeth and
Yep.
all of that. As soon as you do that, that takes away from all the tension because you know what it is now. And
It's
I know
not the
this is a
same.
prequel and we all meant to know what it is anyway, but you can still drag it out for 45, 50 minutes where nothing happens. And you play the best bit about the thing is playing the who is the thing game.
Yes.
And in this, there's none of that. There's no sort of who could it be? It's like, oh, he's got it. He's got it. Oh, I saw him get got. He's got it. There's no guessing to this. And I didn't
You're
like
right.
that.
No, you're right, because and that's one of the things, is like the only scene that I feel like try to capture that like it did in the original than the other one is the scene with the cavities where they do try to make you guess, but but again, to me it wasn't a natural progression of thought as a viewer. It was still
No.
very much waiting on the movie to tell me what to think and feel, and that's not really what I prefer, especially not in this genre of films. Like I need it to happen organically, or it just ends up feeling rushed and ineffective.
Yeah, there's kind of this big build up and everything's going quite slowly. And all of a
Mhm.
sudden they go, boom, alien. let's check your feelings. And
I,
then, and literally, as soon as they've checked like 4 people, like, you're not. Oh, you all 3 could be, and then instantly one of them turns into the thing straight away. There's no
right. There's
kind
no
of
time to, yeah.
there's no time to wonder who it is.
Yeah.
It's like it could be one of you 3, and the alien basically goes, "Hi, it's me." It just annoyed me.
You know which one I like? One of my what I think like because we're talking about like you said, this had so much potential if it had just been left alone.
Yeah.
It would have been great. And one of the scenes that I think from that perspective frustrated me the most was the scene when our main character is like interacting with another female and then she turns her back, right? And the female turns and all this stuff. And I'm like, when you see that, when you think about what that would have looked like as practical versus all of the stuff that's obviously on top of it, it was so frustrating because it wasn't anywhere near as gross or unsettling as it should have been. And that moment would have been like, that was probably the moment that made me feel the most robbed because that happens like what? I think like halfway into it or something. And so it's like one of those things where you're like watching it and you're like, okay. And then if you're like, man, if this was done, that would have been such a great scene because she thinks she's just interacting with someone she has nothing to worry about. There's always that. We see this all the time in horror where people turn their backs and we see something before they do.
Yeah.
But she reacts almost pretty quickly and then she turns and you get this cool reveal, but it's not cool because it's fake. So it's like,
yeah. And I would like to think somewhere there is a director's cut of this before they messed with it. I'd love to think that the director has this sat on a shelf somewhere and one day he's going to release it and let everyone see what it should have been.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sure contractually though, like
not allowed.
But
and the thing is, it flopped as well. So they brought it out and it flopped. And all of the criticism, if you look at any of the reviews, is why have they done this to the thing? Why is it all CGI? What is this stupid block thing in the middle of the ship? It's all the things that the studio changed. It's all the things everyone complains about.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the biggest 2 things I've always heard, or the biggest thing rather, that I've heard always about it when I've heard about people talking that were not big fans is exactly like you said, the effects. And that's the thing that makes the least amount of sense to me because like, even if everything else was mediocre, that would have still been enough to make it successful because when you think of the thing, that's what you think about. And most of us, I feel like I don't know anybody that prefers CGI. I think in most cases, it's specifically, obviously, like in the horror genre, but it's like, or sci-fi horror subgenre, but like that's what we want because not only does it age phenomenally, it looks better. It makes things seem way more real than when you add all that other stuff. I don't know. It was fine. Like from like it's pretty actiony, I guess if you were watching it and you never saw the other one, you might have a different take on it, or I don't know, because you're not comparing it to such a great movie with such amazing practical effects and just this general atmosphere and like, I don't know, like the characters were fine. I didn't hate any of the characters. I didn't think the acting was awful, nothing like that. But something about the way this was put in with everything else, it just made the relationships and everything that I felt in the original, I wasn't able to get there with this one. I wasn't as attached to the people. It just felt like a Sci-Fi Channel action movie,
Yeah, that's exactly what it felt like.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, the thing is about to be redone again. So John Carpenter is returning to the thing. That's John Carpenter's next project for anyone who doesn't know. He's taking Gordon Green along for the ride as well again. That was the face I pulled as well. So when Gordon Green is done with The Exorcist, he is going to
make the Thing trilogy.
No, apparently a one-off. It's from what I've heard, it's going to be a sequel
to the original.
Cool.
I mean, we'll see.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. The only way they could sequel that is if either McCready or Childs is the Thing. It's the only way they can do that. And it's like 40 years later. that they've just been like the thing and just living in New York and living their best life. And just not doing anything. All of a sudden they go, oh, do you know what? Maybe I should start killing people and infecting people again. It's a hard sell.
I think if it were living life as a human, it would be over it by this point. It'd be like, why is anyone alive on this planet? This is awful.
Take me back to the Arctic where I can get my shit going.
That'll be the twist. The twist will be that the thing will just like want to help people live better lives because it feels sorry for them.
Yeah, your healthcare is really bad. Come with me to my ship. I've got stuff that can help you.
Your government must really hate people. Let me just take you away from all this.
Yeah. Do you think because obviously the government have said that aliens are there now. So do you think when the aliens sort of turn up and go, we're going to overthrow your government and put in a completely new system, do you think they're going to be surprised when everyone goes, yeah, okay, cool. Give me a shout if you need any help.
Yeah, let me know what I can do. I saw this. This made me laugh so hard. I saw a TikTok or reel or whatever the other day. This guy, he's like, I drew a chart that will now tell me what I need to do with bad news that is given to me from the government. And he goes over and it's one of those yes, no charts. And it says, aliens exist. Cool. Do I have to still go to work? Yes. Doesn't matter. No. Okay. Do I still have to pay my bills? Yes. Doesn't matter. No.
The thing is, like, if the government had said that aliens existed 10 years ago, the world would have lost their mind.
Would have been so different.
But now the whole world just goes, nah, okay.
Do your worst, aliens. Like, we already got it pretty freaking bad down here. I love it. It's like everyone's like somebody did a video. Is another one. I see these all the time now because once you heart one, they all show up. And another one was like a stitch of a guy who was like, oh, you know, like they announced that aliens exist and nobody cares. And then another person comes on. He's like this close to the camera. He goes, that's because we're tired and we can't pay our bills. He's like, we don't give a fuck about aliens.
No. Unless they're coming to help me pay my gas and electric, I could not give a toss.
I just don't care. Like, damn it, that's not a mood. Yeah. Well, I'm curious to see what they would do with it as a sequel. I think it's like, again, I think if you watch this having never seen the original, which is hard. I wasn't able to remove myself from that. I wasn't able to go in with like, just like it is what it is. I couldn't help but think about the original watching this one. But I think if you watch this as a standalone, it really just feels like a over the top sci-fi channel action movie, which in that regard is fine. It's relatively entertaining in that regard, but I wanted a lot more out of this.
Yeah, and I think that's the problem. People's expectations for this are really high, and to be
hard
fair,
not to be.
It's a good movie. It's just not on a par with. It's a good movie stood all on its own. When you put it next to The Thing, it is not a good movie.
Yeah. So, what do you rate this one out of 10?
It's a 7.
Oh,
it's a good movie. It's
a lot higher.
It's just not The Thing. The Thing's a 10.
Yeah, this is like a 5 for me. It's very mediocre.
Yeah, middle of the road. I think had I got to see a copy with all the practical effects and the original story,
this would be a different conversation.
Yeah, completely different conversation. But yeah, it's a 7. It's still a good movie. It's still got good points in it. There's some good action in it. The actors are all good. It's not a bad film. And the ending, I will say that the little post-credit scene where you see them get in the chopper and they chase down the dog, you could quite easily watch that and literally switch on The Thing straight after.
And it'll be super smooth.
It will roll beautifully.
I did like that part.
Yeah.
The connecting it, I think, is obviously like the only way that would have worked as an ending anyway. Because, you know, like people still write like papers and stuff about the ending of the original, like about what it means and what could have actually happened after that. What is it like, all these things. And, you know, there's all these like fan theories like, oh, if you look in someone's eye and they've got like a sparkle in it, that means, you know, like there's all these like theories about like how to tell if someone's the thing or not. But yeah, no, the ending was cool. And again, I liked the acting. The action stuff was fine, but the creature parts were so obnoxious because they just could have been cooler. And I hate to know that scene with the blocks that you were talking about, that's obnoxious. I hate that so much.
Yeah. So that was originally, so there was concept art for what the thing was actually going to look like before it started doing.
What a cool thing that would have been to see, though. Like,
yeah. There was also talk of, so the director wanted to put like nods to other Alien movies in there. So he wanted, when they were walking around the ship, he wanted you to see a xenomorph. He wanted you to see like a predator's arm in a jar and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that was all in his original script, and the studio went, nope, 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 nope.
What was the reason for noping?
They didn't like it.
They just straight up just personal opinions, didn't like it.
We don't like that. That's a bad idea.
That would have been cool.
Yeah, because then you're linking all of these universes, and you're talking the potential of maybe having the Thing versus Alien, the Thing versus Predator, Alien and the Thing versus Predator. I'm in. I'm fully in.
I would be into that. Would have been, and for people who do know those other franchises, that would have been like a moment, like to see that. Like it would have had you like, you'd be like, oh, that's really cool. And then you see something else, you'd be like, okay, I really love this. Like it would have just added to the joy of the experience.
Yeah, but the studio sucked all the fun out of this and then painted it over with CGI. But there you go.
And it sucks because, like, and I know we've said this multiple times at this point, but that really was the thing that killed it.
Yeah,
like is the way that the effects were handled. Because I just, oh God, I mean, even if I go back and watch the thing now, like if I watched it right now after this conversation, all of those moments with the changes and the creature, all of those are still like, ugh, like they still hit the exact same way that they did the first time I watched this 20 years ago, like, or well, even more than that. Oh my God, I can say that. And I was still not a kid. Oh,
yeah. Getting old is not fun, is it?
yeah. Once my birthday hits next month, I'll only be 5 years from 40. But anyway,
5 years from 40. God, you've got nothing to worry about. 40 is now in my rear view. Goodbye, 40.
To be fair, I know women that like cried when they turned 30, and I never felt that way. The 30s have been a fucking blast. I have loved being in my 30s. I'm very excited about 40s. Like I'm not one of that like, oh my God, mortality is like creeping up on me. I don't really care. But like when I said that, I was like 20 years ago, I was like almost 15. I'm like, I know I saw it before I was 15. Holy shit. Anyways, so I did see this. I saw the original when I was very young because this is going to come up when we do one of the episodes for our other new show on your channel. But my love of horror came from watching sci-fi horror with my dad. That's where a lot of it came from. And this was one of those movies that every time it was on, we watched it every single time. And this is when I was relatively young. And is probably a lot of why aliens scare me so bad, because my dad's always told me he believed aliens were real. So going and you see something like that, you're like, that kind of alien or like the green ones? Because I don't know if I could handle at 8 years old this being real.
Yeah, little green men I can cope with. That I do not want anywhere near me.
Yeah, that seems like it would suck. I'm not interested. But so when I think about these types of movies like this specifically that I've seen with my dad, or I grew up watching, and that really kind of, segued into my love of horror later and a little bit later in life, like it's really hard for me, even being relatively open to reboots, continuations, and remakes. It's very hard for me to go back into these things and not think about the things that mean something to me as an experience. And this one was difficult because honestly, my dad loves cheesy stuff. He probably would eat this up. I don't even know if he's seen it, but he probably would absolutely love it because he just doesn't care about that. Like he just wouldn't. But I just had a hard time with that. I couldn't disconnect myself from the original enough to just blindly enjoy this one.
Yeah, that's a shame. Maybe one day we'll get the decent cut.
Maybe. Fingers
crossed. We've got aliens. Come on, anything's possible now.
That's true. That distraction technique, by the way, did not work. We were like, anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, try something else.
The rest, and then some of us were like, duh. I knew that.
Oh, what? There's aliens? What, in the ever expanse of space that we were convinced we're the only thing? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I kind of knew. Thanks, though.
No way. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. Do we want to talk about briefly before we wrap up the new show since it's going to be close, right?
Yeah. So when's this going out?
August
Yeah.
the
The
29th.
Okay. So yeah, our new show will be out before this.
Oh shit. Okay. So okay.
Yeah. So there's a new show
There we go.
that's already out on my channel, which is You Run Podcast, and that is where we're talking. It's Voices with the You Run Podcast, and we're talking about movies that we haven't seen. So 1 month we're going to do a movie that Angel hasn't seen, and then we're going to do a movie that I haven't seen, which are all going to be Universal monsters, which is kind of Angel's bag. She knows what she's doing there.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's gonna guide me where I need to go and make me watch the right ones, not the wrong ones.
You got to see all of them eventually, but yes, we'll focus on the big ones
Yes.
first, and
Yes.
go.
And then delve into the more weird and wonderful ones.
Yeah. And so the first episode, since it's already out, we talked
The Orphanage.
The Orphanage, which Angel had never seen until recently.
Yes.
So
Yes, and I had said many times. And
yeah.
coming out next month, we're talking about Angel's favorite movie. Do you want to say it? I know you do.
I did already.
Yeah, Frankenstein.
Frankenstein.
But yeah, if you want to find out what I think of Frankenstein and whether I broke Angel's heart on that episode and we're never recording again, you need to tune into that episode.
Yeah, this is scary going into Universal Monsters with you. I mean, I'm not too worried about some of them, because some of them, like, I feel like, if you don't like them, you're just lying
An
to
idiot.
me. But the others, there are some that get a little wonky and aren't as good. And, there's, so it'll be an interesting experience. And there's a lot of, so I'm going to try to stick to, for mine, I'm going to try to stick to movies that are older, that everybody's seen and I haven't, which is why I did The Orphanage first, because I always hear people talk about it. It made it onto Shudder's, like one of its the 100 most scariest moments. It made it into there, and I was like, dang, I've never seen this movie. And so when we started talking, I was like, that's got to be on the list because I've never seen it. So yeah, and that the link for Scott's everything will be in the description for this episode, but I'll separate the links and you'll have like a the YouTube link. You can go check that out too.
Yeah, and when we do the end of our episodes, you'll see the little box pop up, and there'll be one of Angel's episodes there of our remakes. You just click on that, and the idea is that you watch one, and then you go through and you watch them all, and you go backwards and forwards. That's the plan. That's
the master plan.
Yes.
Cool.
But yeah, I think that's it for the thing for me.
Yeah, me too. We don't usually say what we're doing next, so we'll say that. But yeah, we'll be back with another Remakes episode in September. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with us on we're back from our break officially. These will continue every month until we run out, but I think we got a while.
We've got a few.
Just a few. We've got a really fun one that we probably won't be able to get in October, but definitely going to get in for November at least.
Yes.
So so thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Have a good rest of your week. Enjoy your weekend, and we will see you in the next one.
See you later.